Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis. Are camps giving up on diversity, equity, and inclusion?
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
A big thanks to our sponsors who make the CampHacker podcast possible. Imagine camp registration software that actually gives you more time to do what you love. With UltraCamp, you can effortlessly track attendance, manage staff, streamline registration, and more. Explore now at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker. Why spend hours on your schedules only to find mistakes and missed activities for your campers? Let Camptivities do the heavy lifting and help you create the best schedule yet, without the mistakes and in less time. Come check out Camptivities, specifically designed for camps by camp people. Find out more at camptivities.com.
Hello, Camp Mavericks, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast, brought to you by UltraCamp, Camptivities, and the new Camp Recruiting and Retention Playbook from Joanna Warren-Smith and me. I'm Travis Allison. I'm a summer camp marketing and strategy consultant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hudson. I'm the founder of Camp Highlight, a camp for kids with LGBTQ parents. Also, as luck would have it for this particular episode, I'm a DEI consultant. Hi, everybody.
I love that. And my name is Gabrielle Rell. I'm one of the camp directors of Camp Oro, which is an all-girls camp in the Laurentian Mountains. And we focus on creating a positive environment for girls and gender minorities. I'm also one of the co-founders of the Women in Camp Summit.
Gab, it is wonderful to have you on CampHacker again with us.
Yeah,
I'm so happy to be home and so happy to be hanging out with you too.
Amazing. Well, we'll have to work at it. We'll have to work in a show with Dan and Joe. All five of us. Be awesome.
Yes.
Before the end of the season.
Epic. That's behind a paywall.
Yeah, behind a paywall.
Separate paywall.
I'm super grateful that everybody's here. Before we get into the meat of this, I want to remind you that it's helpful to us if you leave us a rating and review. If you go to ratethispodcast.com/camp, there's a rating and reviews button, depending on what app you use. And you can do that. That just helps people get a not from us perspective on how people feel about the show. So we're grateful for that. So I've been hearing something interesting, especially since last summer. We're recording this in December of 2023, that it really feels like the momentum that we've had for the last few years in intentional diversity, equity, and inclusion in the summer camp world is waning. And that the interest in it is not quite the same there. Certainly the folks who've been doing the good work in this are not doing as much. And I'm concerned that that means a lot of things about camp. I'm concerned about the meta message, of course, that camp doesn't care about this. But I'm concerned about what the effects will be on our campers and our staff and our families as well. Gab, you've got a good ear to the ground in the world. Do you have you heard any rustlings about the same sort of thing that I'm hearing?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I would say that it's interesting because there was such a if you were around in the 90s, it was very, that this was, in the mid 90s, people were talking about diversity, et cetera, and started pushing it. And at first there was one or two sessions here or there, and then you get into the early 2000s, there was keynotes. What I experienced when I was receiving a lot of these messages was really from a business standpoint. It was if we don't create a space for all people to feel welcomed, our businesses will not be able to grow with the demographic that we have in front of us. And I heard very little about creating a safer space for all people, or that camps can be harmful. And that's only really come about, in my opinion, in the past 5-ish years, that camps can be a harmful place, and it's not this magical, wonderful place. And it seems like it seems like people are just kind of happy to, as long as they're filling camp, that's what's most important. And there also seems like there's a hide behind, we don't want to be political. And there's this idea that safety is politicized. And I think that's the piece that I find dangerous mindset, that this isn't political, this is human rights, in understanding each other, in making a safer place, in being better informed. That's the job that we're in. But there seems to be some confusing messages out there, and there seems to be some, we're going to avoid this as long as our camps are full. This is what I'm getting.
Yeah. Go for it, Chris.
It's a real problem. If you look on the internet, it will say like DEI, a lot of companies are giving up on it. There's various stats
getting rid of the people who've been in charge
they're reducing the funding for DEI. I remember reading something a couple of weeks ago that in companies, the chief diversity officer, the tenure of that position is something like 16 to 18 months before that person either leaves or they eradicate the position.
Right.
There's this idea that, we don't need diversity, equity, inclusion. It's also like this weird Orwellian thing where we change what words mean. You remember woke is now a bad word. Same thing with community organizing and social justice are somehow bad words. And diversity, equity, inclusion are, they're trying to join those ranks. Elon Musk just said recently that DEI efforts must die, which is almost clever because it almost spells die. But he's not clever at all, so let's give him no credit.
He's not clever.
He probably saw it from somebody. He probably saw someone else.
He definitely stole that from somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's very concerning to me because, especially when it comes to the camp industry as a whole, which I experienced to be extremely exclusive. My origin story of how I got into this is because I felt like I was excluded and I wanted to make sure no one else felt that way. So the fact that we as a culture are moving away from these, and I don't have any specifics about the camp industry, but just in my experience doing this kind of work, I can only imagine that if the stats for like Fortune 500 companies and small businesses is like, the number of programs have dropped 33% in the last 3 years, I imagine it's more for camps, only because camps have this strong conservative traditional worship sort of energy around them that it's really easy to get rid of this. And on top of that, after the pandemic, and I've as a consultant, I've heard this a lot, like we love to pay attention to these issues. It's just that there's so many other things going on right now that we cannot allocate the money for it. And, to quote Simone Gamble, your budget is a moral document. What you choose to spend your money on tells people who you are. And I don't know, I am concerned. I want camp to be a shining attraction for everyone involved. And I know a lot of camp people, as you can imagine, and most of them feel the same way. So it's like this disconnect. And I think basically the disconnect comes from people being frustrated. They don't know where to start. Especially white people are very concerned. They're going to say, do right, the wrong thing. They don't want to be corrected, and they don't want to feel wrong. And I can accept that without necessarily understanding it, but we got to do better. Come on.
Sure.
You can't just stop there.
Yeah. I never had a word for this, but when you said, we just have so many other things going on, my heart started pounding really hard. And I was like, I have anger heart right now. And I was like, that's what just evoked it, anger heart. I think with DEI work, and companies, a lot of what was motivating that work was not being quote unquote canceled, and companies didn't want to get canceled. Not just speaking about the camp industry, but many organizations. And because the motivation was, we don't want to get canceled, we don't want to be seen like we don't care to our, people that are buying our stuff, we have to look like we're doing the work. And so it never really centered people first. And then with a lot of that work that was being done, just like a lot of team building activities that happen in corporate Canada and America and everywhere else, sometimes those activities are not great, they're not run properly, or the organization isn't set up to follow through with those initiatives, those long weekends that like retreats that companies do. And so because it's not centering in people first, because it's not centering with why we're doing this work, it's also done poorly. And the organizational structure isn't set up for it to be received and welcomed and onboarded. And you're right with the frustration. I think that for those that do want to do the work, there's so much noise on how do I get this done and who can help us and who can help me without judgment to be able to open up your home and say, here's my mess. It's bad. I know it is. But I need help because I don't know where to start. Can be intimidating. But I think that there was a wave of let's try to fix this, but it was really rooted in not people. It was rooted in public appearance.
A panic, yeah.
Yeah.
And the business case.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Can I say something controversial?
Always, Chris.
Your microphone, buddy.
That's kind of my brand. Come say something really controversial. It's not that hard. I don't understand. It's not that hard. What it really is the commitment is hard because every step of the way you're going to want to stop. And for me, because we work with children, it's really easy to get the motivation to continue because I know it's not just for me. And I know that we are educators.
Yep.
And part of our job is not just to deliver a great time to these kids who are paying how much money they're paying for 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks, but to prepare them for the world. And preparing them for the world means paying attention to these issues of diversity at your camp. Now, I mentioned this before we started recording. I worked with a client once who's like, oh, well, we're really big fans of yours and we love the work that you're doing, but you're kind of barking up the wrong tree reaching out to us because we don't have any we don't have any people of color working here or attending here. And I was like, okay, red flag, right? Because it wasn't like these people were in the middle of Iowa or, deep somewhere. It wasn't that case. And I was like, well, one, it's worthwhile to ask yourself why. I just think that's interesting, right? Because people are making choices and they're not choosing you. So to make the business case, Gabz, it's like that is a business person. That's interesting to me. Yep. 2, the educational case is that you have this opportunity where you have a whole bunch of white kids together. This is where education can happen. This is where you can start a conversation and let those kids know, hey, we talk about diversity and equity inclusion, not just because there's people of color here, but because we should be talking about it, right? Because there are people of color out there. On top of that, the people of color out there, their culture is impacting the majority culture, which is your culture. So having an understanding about where people are coming from is going to better inform how you should interact with reality and how you should interact with society, even if it's all white people.
Yeah.
There's this idea that opening up, whatever that means, because it can be really, really terrifying people, but opening up either access or environments or even opening up your mind to ideas, well, somehow you'll lose something. And I'm like, there's nothing to be lost. It's all upside and gain.
Yeah, it's okay.
It is work and it is money. That's true. But isn't everything? I can't tell you the last time I got something for free and easily.
I think that's what exactly that. It's centering that we get to do this work. We're in the business of creating a safer space for kids to, be themselves. I mean, that's essentially that's what we're doing at camp, creating a space for kids to try stuff, make a fool of themselves in front of people, and then they try again. And that includes everything that DEI stands for. That's the piece. And I think that's where camp directors, I think, can really hold on to. Doesn't matter what the demographic of what your organization looks like. A camp is safer if what they're doing at camp would be safe if anybody was part of that circle, regardless if they're there or not. And taking that type of approach, I think can really empower an organization, can empower staff. It can be something that you can walk towards with pride, and also learn how to, role model being humble. I certainly, in my years of doing this work, I jokingly say I've never learned how to apologize as much as when I make these type of mistakes in front of my staff, and I've gotten pretty good at apologizing in a way that's I would hope is authentic, and it allows me to also show them, this is going to happen to you, and that's okay. And you apologize, you learn from it, you move forward, you make the changes. We get to do that work, So I agree with you, Chris. It's that there's an opportunity here that can be actually quite exciting, I think, for businesses in camps. Elon Musk could probably also benefit from it too. I would
Ew. Let's not mention him again. I got the icks just now.
I want to take just a second and thank UltraCamp for their sponsorship of the CampHacker podcast, for coming with us on these big journeys and when we take them. If you're a CampHacker listener, you can discover the best marketing tools and apps for camps by visiting ultracampmanagement.com/CampHacker. There you can download UltraCamp's free guide, The Marketing Toolbox. It has been updated for 2024. If you're a camp person, you often, I hope, ask yourself, why do I do this? As I just said in the discussion. And part of it is just acknowledging that there are lots of reasons why you do camp. And UltraCamp really knows that it wasn't because you like paperwork. And that is why they have been creating and intentional about this all-in-one platform to streamline your whole program management. UltraCamp gives you powerful tools that put you in control of the information required to run a smart camp business. You can automate your critical processes like registration and billing. You can generate customized reports to gain valuable insights on how your business is running. You can streamline your hiring process, including using UltraCamp's integrated background checks, and you can quickly communicate with your clients and donors. UltraCamp's goal is to help their clients spend less time in the office and more time doing what they love and making an impact with the kids around them. If you want to know if UltraCamp is the right fit for you, they offer free customized demo sessions so you can see their software in action. Again, go to ultracampmanagement.com/CampHacker to book a demo session and to download their free camp marketing toolbook. Thank you to UltraCamp for the sponsorship.
I spoke out of both sides of my mouth because I said it's not hard and I said it's not easy.
Right.
I want to just clarify that a little bit.
Please.
I don't think it's hard the way people think it's hard. I think people think they need to. I was just having this conversation this morning with my cousins. I think people think they need to read a whole bunch of Ibram Kendi and Martin Luther King to understand how to be more accepting of people of color. But the country, people of color have always been here.
Right.
There's no mystery, right? It's always available. And I was telling my cousins this morning, I was like, I'm a terror of my friends because whenever I bring something up it's harder for Black people to get loans or something like that. And if they ever fix their face to be like, what, really? I go, no. That's a microaggression because this information is available to you and you live in the world and you should pay attention to it. It's just available to you. I was like, I'm not calling you out for being racist. I'm calling you out for not participating in the society. I was like, don't tell me you're surprised by that. Look it up. It's available. That's not a secret. So on one level, I think people think it's going to be really hard because they have to study, but it's not because it's just, honestly, if you want to know where to start, people who are listening to this, one of the first things they teach us in social work school is start where the client is at, right? So if someone comes to you and they are delusional, they think that someone is watching them whenever they're in the shower. Yeah, we got to get them away from that idea, but they're there. So we have to start where they are. All right. Tell me more about that. How do you feel when the person's watching the shower? Who do you think? You don't buy into delusion, but we dive in because that's where you're at. A lot of people, when they contact me for DEI, they're scared for their business. Yep. They're scared, as you mentioned, Gabz, for being called out or canceled. So I try to start there. What's the worst thing that happens, right? Your 87-year-old donors don't want to fund you anymore. Okay, will you go bankrupt? Right? If this collection of people no longer donate money, what would that mean to you? You know what I mean? And getting people through their fear, because a lot of it is, and listen, I've said this across many media, summer camp industry is racist, right? And all the forces around it are pulling it in that direction. So what does it mean to
Right.
stand up and be like, actually, I want to go in a different direction? It's frightening. So I
Yeah.
think dealing with people's fear, if you're listening to this, wondering like, oh, we should do DEI stuff, you got to sit with your fear around that because that's really where it comes from, right? What
Yeah.
are people going to say? Am I going to say or do the wrong thing? Am I going to get canceled? Okay, let's talk about that. And once we talk about that, then we can learn, then unlearn some stuff together and then relearn some stuff together.
Yeah. Yeah. If well, let's see if you both agree with this, but I think we've talked a lot about this not being over. This is not a done. There's more to be done. Is it okay with the two if we move to some practicals?
Sure.
Yeah.
Practical ways that camps can handle that. So from the management side, the camp prep side of things, let's review. Where do the camps start? Where's the thing that camps do to get this going? I am going to assume the best that lots of people have thought about this, but also that lots of us haven't acted on that. So imagine Camp Travis brings you in and says, Chris, we need help. What should we do?
What's your goal?
Right.
That's where you start. What's your goal? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Are you doing this? Are you doing this because you're afraid of what it's going to look like? Are you doing this because you really are concerned about building a better future? Are you doing this because maybe, receipts are down and you need to appeal to a different demographic? All of those answers are correct. They're all correct. And that's fine. And no one's going to judge you. I mean, that's not true. I won't judge you.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But every answer is correct. So just really figure out what's your goal. People contact me and they don't have a goal. They're like, well, it just seemed like the right thing to do. I'm like, this is going to fail. Because when push comes to shove, you're going to be like, this is too much. And you're not committed or dedicated because we didn't select a goal. So that's the first thing I would start with. What is your goal? What do you want? And you can tell me anything. It's fine. Oh, I just want to get the woke crowd off my back. Okay. We can do that in a way that works for you and your community, And of course, I'll be working on them to try and get more high-minded things, but we just need a place to start.
Yep.
Because that's going to dictate not only how much money you allocate, but how much time and how much staff you pull into it.
Yeah.
So that's where you start. What's my goal? And then the second place, you didn't ask this, but the second place, what's my resistance? Which is what I was talking about earlier. Like, what are you afraid of? Like, what's inside? Like, where are you? Starting where you're at. Does that make sense, Gabz? What would you add to that?
I love it. I'm just smiling at you right now for those that can't see. I'm like, oh, Chris, exactly. Yes. And where you're at is so important. And I would go for a third step, perhaps. What is your organization's origin stories? So, how did you appropriate the land, the activities, who was excluded when your organization first started? What are your roots? And chances are it shows up in many different ways on your organization. So if you are part of a sleepaway camp, so you own land, it will start to lead to the names of the buildings, the type of programs you have, maybe even some of the songs that you're singing. All of this has origin stories, and those origin stories, one of the things that I talk with other organizations that are trying to do better, but they haven't checked themselves as well. The defense wall does go up, and sometimes it's like, well, they never meant it to be, racist or sexist or whatever is, and I say, no, that's the whole point. If they would have known better, they would have done better. And so that's where we are. We know better now. So let's do better. And of course, that's not completely true. I mean, I think some people just ignored it and they did do better and they should have freaking done better. But sometimes I'm trying to just get things moving forward and saying, if some of our founders would have known better, they would have done better. But now we know better, so we have to do better. So I think, but it is looking where our origins come from and checking yourself so that you're not resistant to those type of change and keep that focal point of what is your mission. And it's to create a safer space for all the kids and the kiddos and the staff that are coming to you.
If that is your mission. I mean, I'm hoping it is, but a lot of people don't select that as the top thing.
It might not be.
A lot of people pick the business case.
Well, that might be, and still your business can still be a thriving business that creates a space for kids to be themselves. And and you can, there's always money out there. And anyways, I don't want to get into a financial toll discussion, but Chris, I agree with you. The goal, checking yourself, and then maybe check your origin stories.
If anybody is going to take this seriously, they will have done a lot of self-evaluation. People who no, am I wrong?
Not true. That's not
true.
Oh,
that's really interesting to me. That's fascinating because for me, from my well, no, but my perspective, my bias is pretty obvious because of my life experience. But that's so weird. I would think that people
honestly,
like,
Travis,
we need to do better.
People think asking the question is the self-evaluation. They think just asking the question, should we concern ourselves with DEI?
Okay.
Nope, that's as much inward blinking that, people think that is the beginning. And, know, and I listen.
Yep.
I love client calls. I do, just because God, I shouldn't say this in public. Sometimes it's really amusing that people will call me to have a conversation when they haven't done any work whatsoever. And I mean, any work to, I don't want to call anyone out, but to not even understanding what the D, the E, and the I mean. I don't mean definitions of the words, what the words are. Like, people haven't done any work whatsoever. Again, it's become, especially after 2020, just a checklist item.
Sure.
Oh, we got to get a DEI guy in here to talk about racism, blah, 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 and then we can move on with camp, right? So people don't do a lot of introspection here, because if they did, I think they'd really connect with the heart of the matter, which is listen, I can't speak for everyone, but maybe you got into this job because you thought kids deserved a place where they could explore and grow and learn independence and community living. Maybe that's why you got into it. If that's the case, this folds so nicely into that, because some kids are Chinese and some kids don't speak English, and some kids are disabled, and some kids are neuroatypical, and some kids are heavy, and some kids have limited mobility. And those kids, I mean, if you're talking about kids, those kids deserve the same thing, right? On top of that, staff, people who want to work with young people, should they be restricted because of their race or their gender or their sexual orientation? How do we make sure that doesn't happen? Because so many people have so much to offer here. And on top of that, the families themselves, the parents, how do we reach out to these people to let them know we will take care of your children? We have thought about what it means to be neuroatypical, what it means to have limited mobility, what it means to be gay or trans. We've thought about that. It seems to me to fit really into the ethos of what summer camp is writ large. Okay, I feel like I'm in a TED Talk. I'm on a soapbox. Don't get me started on this stuff, because it's deeply important to me, because children are deeply important to me. And this space for children is deeply important. And, I said this famously in public and got canceled right afterwards by various forces, but camp's not just for little white blonde kids. By the way, that was a controversial statement in the room. I said it, and the room was full of camp professionals. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
But I was formally censured after that. I'll tell you that story off the air. But it's not just for little white kids anymore.
Yeah.
And if you react to that, if you feel attacked by that, I'm going to ask you to listen to some soothing Enya and touch grass, because it's not about you. It's just not about you. You really need to relax. It's about the kids. It should be about the kids. It should be about this environment that we're creating. It should be this curriculum that's unfolding. It's all part of that. It's not about you and how you feel people are going to think about, who you voted for. Or it's not politics, like you said, Gabz. It's just humanity.
Every year it's the same thing. Lots of hours spent working on the daily schedules, only for there to be mistakes, missed activities, lots of stress, and upset. Why is this so difficult? There's got to be a better way. There is. It's Camptivities, an activity scheduler made specifically for camps by camp people. Group scheduling or camper scheduling, they've got you covered. There's different day schedules. That's not a problem. It's auto scheduling, elective scheduling, batch scheduling. Just schedule the way that works for you, your camp, and the way you run things. With over 50 reports, you'll be able to see the data easily. When a parent calls and says, my camper didn't get an activity week 1, pull up the group activity tracker and see exactly when that activity was scheduled all summer long. figure out and be able to tell that parent this is when it's going to happen next. Modernize the way you do activity scheduling. Make it easier to collaborate with team members, get rid of the mistakes, and make sure your campers are getting to all of the activities they want to. They would love to show you the next big thing in camp. Don't wait until the new year. Start the onboarding process now and save 15% for this coming season. Visit camptivities.com to set up a time to chat with them. Let them help you get away from your desk and back out at camp. We acknowledge that there is way more to this topic than we can cover in one episode. But I want to think in practicalities, and this fits, I think, with the stuff that War Oak sells at Cab. What are the steps the camps should do to make them the most welcoming places possible? And Chris, if you want to start that off, that's fine.
4 million things crowded into my mind.
Excellent. Just slammed home. Fair.
This is just gonna be scattershot.
Great. Bring it.
Love it.
I'm just gonna say 3 things. All right. And I'm gonna go first, Gab. So you have plenty of time to think about it, which I do not have, Travis. Okay. First off, and this is a lesson that I learned at my own camp. Review the timetable, review your schedule. And understand that giving kids 5 minutes between activities sometimes works for most kids who have limited mobility, who have problems with executive function or other issues, that you're just setting them up for failure. Like that's one thing. So looking at the schedule, making sure that your activities are accessible. And the other thing, making sure you're leaving appropriate time. I was once confronted by the Black girls at my camp who said, like, you only give us an hour to get ready for the dance. Our hair is going to take considerably longer. I was like, say no more. We're shifting the whole day around. You know what I mean? And that was a lesson. So that's the first thing. The second thing about families, when you are doing outreach to families, mention diversity, equity, inclusion. Because let me tell you something. Smart. People of color sending their kids to your camp, it's the only thing on their mind, right? And they may not bring it up because we don't bring it up very often. If you bring it up, you will go a long way to making them feel comfortable because it's front of your mind. Hey, I want you to know the camp is mostly white, but this is what we're doing to make the place more equitable. You know, we're looking at our schedules for one. Last thing, I'm doing children, family, and staff. Last thing for staff, in your hiring, and listen, we've all been there. The warm body. Okay, I need to hire 45 people and I have 2 weeks to do it. I get it. Believe me, I get it. Maybe that's a different episode. I understand. But whoever you do hire, as part of that interview process, you have to get them to commit to diversity, equity, inclusion. You have to make them understand. And international people, although their culture is different, they still have people that they understand, not necessarily, North American racism is particular, right? But they understand the currents and they can understand that, I'm committing to a place where there's many different people and I have to be accepting of that. Just that little bit would actually head off a lot at the pass, letting people know as part of, if you want this job, I need you to verbally commit to advancing DEI. So those are my 3 things.
Well done.
I love the staff one. And I think for me, that's a top one. And it's not convincing them that we're trying to create a safer space. Is that it's like wearing a life jacket, in the lake when you're doing a boat sport. It's just what we do. It's just what we do. Yeah.
Like,
and
will you keep the children safe? You will keep, you can only have this job if you keep the children safe and if you're committed to DEI.
Yes.
Otherwise, don't show up here.
And it's interesting that I've seen some people disagree in interviews, and my understanding was that wouldn't really happen. And I think that was just a judgment a little bit on my own of the age group that we're interviewing, but it's very important. And then on the other side, it's lovely to see them sort of their shoulders go down with relief. I would say equally so for families when you are communicating with them, being transparent, because this might not be something that their families want. So for example, my camp is traditionally a camp that only accepted people that were assigned female at birth. But the reality is we've always had trans and non-binary campers and staff members at Waro. And only when we started being much more transparent to our families. We do see some of the grumblings with some of our families, but we're also able to educate them and inform them, and even inform them on the legalities of some of their questions, which are you're not allowed to ask. So that information, I think, also helps families set those expectations. And if your camp is not the right camp for them, in some ways it creates a safer space for the kids that we're trying to create that space. And I'm not trying to exclude anybody. And I do think that camp is a place for people to learn. But if families at home have a fundamental belief system that is going to go against the safety that you're trying to provide within your organization, it's important to be upfront so that we can create that safer space. And then I would say I'd go back to starting with yourself, and I'd link that with language. So we've gotten rid of songs, we've gotten rid of names of buildings, traditions, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But I have to be very, very confident when I'm talking to families and alumni about why we've changed those things, and not just because, oh, it was bad, it was mean. I have to be very confident behind it, saying, well, this is harmful because, and I do have an opportunity to do a little mini information for some of our families. And so for some of our alumni, and that allows them to be able to pass on that knowledge. And I won't spend too much time. If somebody doesn't want to listen, then that's on them. But I do have to be informed, and I have to be confident when I'm saying it. And so language, I think, is very important, and what we're using at camp. Our organization also is, French speaking, and in the French language, everything has gender. A chair is female, table is male. It's very awkward and weird, but it is what it is. There's no rhyme or reason, by the way, everybody. There's no rule. You just have to know it. It's very French. You need to be on the club to know. And they make you feel. So
that's the most French thing that you could ever say. It is
very French. So our camp, proudly, we would say campeuse. So that's female for camper. And this is also the rule. You could have 1 billion people in a room, and if they're all women, but you have one man, then you identify the whole group as men. That's how it works in the French language.
Just French. Okay.
Yes. Gotcha. Just in French.
It's not a Waro. This is a French.
This is not a Waro thing. This is just a French thing. So at Camp Waro, it was quite lovely when I was growing up that we were all referred to as campeurs, which is instead of campar. Campar is boys, campers is girls. And because you don't hear the feminine language that often, because there's typically always men or boys part of a group. And so when we were acknowledging more non-binary individuals and trans individuals, I didn't want to lose that, because it was kind of like, it's so special. So we borrowed from another camp that calls them the campiste, and campiste is a gender neutral way of, it's made up. Sure. And the same with monitrice, it's the monite. So we've changed some of our language so that it encompasses everybody, but it doesn't just default to the masculine. So it's things that you're doing with your buildings and your programs, but that you believe in the change, so you can onboard people when you have the opportunity to do so.
Gab, I missed it. My French here is not very good. What's the neutral term for monitors?
So monitrice is monite. So you have moniteur, monitrice, and then gender neutral is monite. This is made up again. Right. Yeah, it's very made up. They love
all
it. All
words are made up, by the way. I just want to point that out.
Totally.
Facts.
We could say whatever we want.
I just want to say I don't want the French dictionary people to come after me. They will. So I'm telling them we created this language.
Very militant.
Yes. So anyways, I think but you have to believe in it, and you need to understand why you're doing this, and then you can onboard people when you have the opportunity.
Right.
Monite et campiste.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So much more to do, but we are out of time.
I know, we're out of time.
Yeah. So not only much more to talk about, but much more to do. Yeah, I think anything I would say to wrap this up will just open up more doors that we will want to close.
I see you wanting to ask another question, but unless you want to make this another 20 minutes.
Sure, yeah. We'll respect the listeners and promise to come back to it. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you both. I really appreciate your insights and the experience that both of you have had and your intentionality around this. And yes, I let me say this as my final point. This feels overwhelming. I understand that. This is why outside help matters. This is why somebody
Yes.
who doesn't have your emotional attachment, your fears, your perspective on your community, your, I would say, limiting perspective on your camp community, that's why it's worth bringing in somebody to do that.
I know
You'll
someone.
know Chris does this work. Bring in Chris to do it. If you're interested in other people, we have lots of other friends who do this work that we care for very deeply, and I've seen their work and know how great they are at walking people through this. So all of that is.
Can I just say one more thing
Please.
on that point?
Yeah.
Listen, people like me, we're not cheap. I'm going to be really honest about that.
Mhm.
Don't wait to hire someone to start to do something.
Yeah.
I just want to say that. Like,
Yeah.
while listen, what if you really don't have the money? I get it. You can do something. Like I said, it's available to you. The information's available. So you can get to work on your own. It will go faster and easier with help. But again, you're not disabled in that way. Like, the information's available. Just want to throw that out there.
And I'd like to say that I hire people, and I hire multiple people, and I understand that that's a position of privilege. It's also where we prioritize some of our finances, and I do a lot of the work on my own via listening to podcasts, to books, to articles, to get myself informed. But my organization does need assistance, because I do need that outside perspective, and I'm not ashamed to say that I'm not ashamed. We all have blind spots. And I also grew up within this organization. So what seems very normal and typical to me can be very harmful. And I need somebody from the outside to be able to tell me that. And I will say that I breathe so much easier knowing that I have a consultant that's supporting our organization. And I know that I can refer back to them when I'm coming up with questions that I just don't have the answers to, and I'm not quite sure where to go. It's an investment that I'm so grateful that we take within our organization.
Yeah. I think the point I would like to leave this on is you should bring in people from outside for all of those reasons, but it doesn't have to cost you a ton to have a person have created an atmosphere. That's an even better word to put it. To create an atmosphere where people are allowed to ask why, where people are allowed to say, why do we do this? And I think that's the starting point, is just like everything is why. Why do we do it this way? And be ready to modify or change things that you don't like the answer to that question. But it's always great to have someone or at a place where people are comfortable asking why, and that takes us in lots of good directions. That means we are moving on to our tool of the week.
Tool of the week.
I'm going to start us off today for the tool of the week. It is not theme related to what we've been discussing about, but something that I've been thinking about, and in fact is I'm going to give a nod to Rachel Kent, often been a guest on CampHacker a number of times. Rachel is great for in groups of camp people saying, "Hey, have you washed your water bottle lately? Your Nalgene looks pretty grim. Have you washed that thing?" And I am one of those people. I have a refillable water bottle that I fill up in the morning. No, I fill up at night before I go to bed. I take it out in the morning and drink from it all day, and etc. So I am saying you should wash your water bottle, or your coffee or tea mug that's too long for you to get your hand into. And my tool of the week is a bottle brush. If you go to camphacker.tv/podcast, you can look up bottle brush as my tool of the week. I have had different ones. One looks like just has a bunch of silicone fingers on the end of it. That's fine. It's okay. The one that you want has like a silicone blade on the bottom of it. It's kind of serrated, but it's flat on the bottom. It doesn't just have the fingers to get into the corners. And it will make sure the corners of the bottom get really clean. So check out camphacker.tv/podcast for the one that I recommend, the one that I've used, the one with all just the plastic fingers or the plastic or silicone hair on it. they're fine, but they don't really work as well as this one. So have fun this one, and I thought people would appreciate it.
And you put that near your where the kids fill up their water bottle, like the
Yeah.
water bottle station.
Just attach it with a chain to the wall by
honestly,
the filling thing.
I love
agree.
it. Also silicone, great.
Yeah, doesn't hold mold. So
that's right.
That's a great idea. I was thinking of it by your sink, wherever you are, but I agree that would be awesome.
Can I just say something
like
about this?
those? Yeah, please.
This is a real consideration because I was at a camp and they were saying how like a lot of the kids were having stomach issues.
Yeah.
And so they went to the kitchen and they were like, how are we cleaning these dishes? Right. And they found that the team just wasn't doing a really great job.
Oh, yeah.
So like when it comes to like the cleaning of things, especially the water, which we're constantly like, drink water, kids, don't ever stop. Like it's important to clean your bottle just so like you don't get sick. Cause like I was like, whoa, you guys like fix the problem by like going to the source, which is something I never would have thought about, like the cleanliness of like the utensils. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's a great idea.
Here to go. Bottle brush. Chris, what's your pick?
Well, mine is a little related to this topic. So my whole thing in the last couple of years is that whenever I'm confronted with something, I just want more information, and right now in the world, there's a lot of stuff happening in Palestine and Israel, and I'm not interested in what your opinion is about it. I'm only interested in information. What I keep getting told about that situation is like, well, Chris, it's so complicated, you couldn't possibly understand. However, I am brilliant. And if I turn my attention to it, I probably could understand. So I got a book. It's called The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi, who is the great grandnephew of the mayor of Jerusalem, who back in 1899, who wrote a letter at the time saying how like the Palestinians would not take well to being displaced. And then that begins like 100-year history of looking at just what has been going on there. Now, listen, I know, especially in America, this is idea that if you somehow hear information that contradicts your opinion, like, I don't know what you think, you're going to explode or die or your children will get sick. I don't know what it is, but I'm of the opinion that information is neutral, right? And we can educate ourselves so we can better understand the people who we live with. And understanding the people who we live with, I think, is one of the reasons why most of you listening to this got into this gig. So maybe this isn't your book. I'm enjoying it, but I would challenge you to read the history of any oppressed people. And if you get to the conclusion of that and be like, my opinion hasn't changed, that's fine. That's not what it was about. It's not about changing your opinion. It's about informing you about the world that you already live in. So again, The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi.
Thanks, Chris. Gabz, what's your tool?
My tool is, I also wanted to say thanks, Chris. I like that. My tool is highlighter pens for your staff during exam time. So I'm going with the Portage promotions, but obviously you can find them anywhere. But Portage has always, let's just say that they've gotten me out of tight situations, what I've called last minute for something, and they're so wonderful. But basically, I've done this a couple of years ago and definitely will be doing it again this year. Send out pens for staff only, and it has a highlighter on one end, a pen on the other end with a little note saying good luck during your exam times. The feedback we got from staff, it's just they don't expect it, they love it. And you can even do it for maybe if there's some staff that you loved as 2 years back or even 3 years back, and maybe they haven't applied and you kind of want them to apply. So it's a little bit of that ploy, but I think it's just nice if you're able to do that, send out, it's nice to get something in the mail. So a little highlighter pen for your staff when they're in their exams.
Excellent. I love that. Thank you. So thank you both for a great show. Gab, it was wonderful to have you back. Thanks for being here.
I love being here.
Awesome. Well, we're grateful to you. If people want to get in touch or follow up with any questions, Gabz?
You can reach me at info@waro.com, or you could check out where I work at waro.com. Waro is OUAREAU.com.
Thanks so much, Gab. Chris, if people want to follow up with you, people who should be booking you to do this kind of work with them, how can they do so?
Okay. So you can email me, Chris at planetchris.net. You can look for me on LinkedIn. My name is Chris Hudson. And if you're listening to this, we're probably somehow connected on LinkedIn anyway, within 3 people. So yeah, look me up there and let me know all your DEI concerns. And let's make your camp better, and then in turn make the world better. That's my top secret plan. So get in on it.
And I also want to say, when Chris is like, oh, and people that I met up never really did the work. If you're thinking of hiring Chris, you've already done some of the work, at least just thinking that I need to do it. And we've had some chats behind the scenes, and he's been very, very helpful for me. Very kind and gentle and understanding. So I love your tough side, Chris, but you create a very safe space to be yourself. So I just wanted to say, don't be afraid. Call him if he's the right one person for you. Just do it.
Thank you. It's awesome. It's nice to have friends. It's cool.
It is.
Middle school me would be very excited right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I want to take 1 second before we say goodbye and just highlight another show. Since Gabz is here, we're going to highlight Camp Code. Camp Code is our podcast with Gabz and Beth and Ruby, focusing on staff training. And they've had some great episodes this year, and I'm really excited for the stuff that I have heard that is coming out soon. So search in your podcast app for Camp Code and listen to Beth and Gabz and Ruby talk smart about staff training. And following their advice will make your life in the summer easier. There you go. Thanks for the evening, friends.
The CampHacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.